At the heart of Oz, the City of Emeralds stands as a beacon of goodness and truth. Magnificent towers and domes dominate the royal palace. Within its gates, a diverse community defends the utopian spirit and the unimaginable power of its rightful ruler, Princess Ozma. As night falls, the gemmed spires emit a mesmerizing glow that shines brighter than the stars.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Oz. Oh, how weird that it has us stuck over here.
Stuck?
Yeah, that was really strange. Because it was playing in the background. Anyway, welcome to Oz. Welcome back, Skullcap. How are you?
Oh, just great. Trying to, live life without having to work at a car dealership, but
I'm sorry.
That's where we're at right now.
That is a tough run, for sure.
It'll be over eventually.
Well,
no worries.
Probably this summer.
Sometime. Yeah, if Silver can bust out of the manipulative funk that it should be busting through with war imminent in the world,
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what was it today? I think it was actually going back up. It was really volatile today. It dropped into the 60s and then went from 76 down to 66 and then all the way back up to 73. Split the difference. But
I'm just call me later. I think it's going to have to get up past like 80 to start running again. But yeah, it'll be here this year.
It's weird though, because we're all the stuff with everybody's talking about deliveries, and it's still gonna the whole system's gonna get stressed to that degree, I think. But anyway, that's when we'll all be fat and happy, and no one will complain anymore, at least in our community.
Yeah, Vix was really pointing at this summer and this year, and really he was really focusing on 4th of July being a big relief for everyone. Of course, his birthday, so there's that.
Yeah.
But
he's gonna get all the AI imagery all ready to go, with him being like this hulking man of a sensation.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Riding the silver wave, the silver. It's funny because in real estate, they're calling it the silver tsunami that's coming.
Really?
Which is, well, the old people are all dying. The silver tsunami. So the inventory is going to rush onto the market, as they say, because the old people dying, and the houses in the inheritance. I think like more than 70% of houses that go to inheritance get sold. They don't stay in the family anymore. So the silver tsunami.
No, trust me, nobody wants their parents' stuff. There's like that is the basis of my business, of my flipping business, is that we go to estate sales mostly to get the best.
You got to save me some old style like GE stovetop appliances if you find those. Allison,
you can really find them really good where you are, though.
Yeah, I probably could. I haven't really even started looking because we got to buy our own place first, stop renting. But anyway, that's not why we're here. We're here to discuss this.
We're here because we
have a comic in classic Steganography decode fashion. Eventually, guys, like we're going to have to get past the comic, like kidsy stuff that the Steganography shows, by the way. It conveys some depth, right? But I'd love to move beyond and get everybody. I know the comic stuff is fun, but the stuff that it conveys beyond it, that's what Lisa and I've really got to get into with showing you guys enough of these matching decode patterns that you
should we do a quick like rundown of some things or go one by one?
Yeah, I mean, I can do that right out of the gate. So
Oh, wait.
What we have here.
Tell them what this is.
That's what I'm doing. Yeah. So what we have here is we have a comic book that is, well, it's an encyclopedia disguised as a comic book.
Mm-hmm.
The guy that started this, again, apparently, he is this gentleman whose name is
Bun, right?
Yeah, where was the editor's note here? It was before this. The editor was Jay Duncan. Jay Duncan. He's the producer of this project, and it's a reconstruction of Frank Baum's Oz universe. So
it very much reminded me of
in Frank Baum's Oz universe. I have all of the books. So there's an extensive collection. 5 books per tome here.
Okay.
14 books in total. So you've got the first 5 books belong to a series called The Wizard of Oz. See Dorothy's riding the lion on there with the roses. There's a lot of symbolism in this that even extends to even darker tales people have probably read with Stephen King and The Dark Tower. And anyway, Emerald City of Oz and The Magic of Oz. And there's a host of characters that go way beyond what people really realize about the Oz universe, because they really haven't ever read Frank Baum's novels. And therefore, they miss a lot of the context that we discuss here on this channel and the riddles that are hidden in with the steganography. There's a lot of effective symbolism as a baseline with these. There's a lot of archetypes in the characters. There's a lot of whimsy in how they're conveyed, and the ways in which you can create allegories for illusions and magic.
Mm-hmm.
These very specifically tuned archetypes that have kind of key attributes, which therefore you can use in a symbolic sense, subliminally. And that's what we argue with the steganography to begin with, is that the template of Frank Baum's novels get used across a milieu of popular media, from music to movies to just straight up stories that rehash the formula of what Oz is.
Mm-hmm.
And it even extends to the magic that's put on our eyes with politics, history, and finance. It's Oz is the illusion that we all live in. And outside of Oz is the real world, which isn't quite as fanciful as we think it is, because people like bankers and historians and scholars, they control the info drip. Religious leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So what we have is a guy who, on the surface, and we don't know much about this Jay Duncan. The Jay Duncan that wrote this and edited this project called The Ultimate Oz Universe aimed to compile all of these books that I just showed you that he fell in love with as a kid into a more encyclopedic format, such that all of these allegories, symbols, contexts could be put into a reference guide that the reader could use to undertake understanding Oz better.
Mm-hmm.
We don't yet know how far this goes, but Lisa and I were there's some things in this book specifically that speak to the illusions of the real world today. Hints of all 3 of these things: history, religion, and money being not what it seemed within key themes with this. So this
Can I just hit on one thing that you mentioned? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You said that you have in your hand, and that's actually, so Elton John wrote the foreword to this.
Yeah.
And, he was a good friend with Lady Di, all that. So there's all those ties there. And the very last paragraph of his, he says something about building on Baum's legacy with a new canon of stories like the one you have in your hands. Remember when you were talking to us about the Wolverine one and the whatever?
Yeah, the hands at the Intrepid Museum.
And the hands at the Intrepid Museum. Okay, so there's
the cast hands of all of the astronauts. from the
Okay.
Apollo 11 mission are in a display case inside the Intrepid
That's
Museum.
right. We
Remember,
talked about
that
that.
had
I
to do with the
forgot.
moon, the analemma of the moon, because the moon draws the figure 8 in the sky. 88 is time because the moon and the sun both have analemmas that resemble figure 8s once they make a complete a transit.
There was also there was a comic book that we had tied to that was a Wolverine comic book, and the
Yes.
comic book engaged the reader as in, oh, now you've picked this up and you are part of this story now.
This was called the multiverse. The multiverse.
That was what it was. Okay, multiverse.
And that was where we have Trump Tower. Yeah, you're
and now we're doing it
that.
in the Oz universe.
Yep.
So
well, Oz is the multiverse too. Like, that's the thing. It is a multiverse in a sense. This is part of the scientific community subtext where the Gritologists in Jewish sciences, they want you to think that nothing is spiritual, everything is grinding together, as Cliff says, right? And that is how you conceive of something like the multiverse. If you live in a consequential universe where you're trying to create novelty for yourself, like also Cliff says, I agree with his take on this. We're here to create novelty. There's a lot of sensibility that you gain in life when you take that lens, because it just makes sense. I mean, you gauge everything against that. You're like, God, yeah, that's what we're doing. That's so anyway, when you get down to that aspect of it, the somebody who believes in the multiverse is kind of blinded by kind of like a facsimile of like a religious fanatic might have for their own belief system, right? You come to realize Zionist. What's that?
Like a Christian Zionist.
Yeah, I mean,
just blinded.
I can't even fathom what that even is.
Well, it's an ironic.
People identify with as that, and they can't really describe what it is that they even believe in. But back to what the multiverse belief system conveys, it's somebody who, if you believe in the multiverse, you also believe there are infinite numbers or versions of you out there. Your same consciousness somehow is occupying other bodies out there that you're unaware of, an infinite amount of them. And so all your little agents out there are already completing all of the tasks that God could ever ask of you, because there are an infinite amount of you. All of the things that could ever be done are already being done. And so everything's happening all at once, kind of a thing, and that would mean that each universe is also like its own little piece of individual grit floating around in some other sort of substrate that so what you realize about that, though, and if you bring it back to reality and baseline, is that multiverse idealistic thinking is that's a lie, that's a trick, that's Jewish subversion, Gritology, because if you already have an agent of your own design out there doing everything all at once, then there isn't anything novel. You must conclude, because everything's already done.
Well, then you have to assume that there is no time.
What's that now?
You'd have to assume there is no time.
Which there isn't, which there also isn't. We also only ever have the ever-present now. That's also
the world.
We have duration, not time. And they've tricked you into thinking time even it has its own kind of continuum that you can hop between on.
Well, I think that the whole idea of time is part of the Tiny Hat plan to steal our energy, is to get us to value.
I'm sure it has a large component to that, because what is Saturn but Chronos, right? The chronology, the chronologist, the changer of the reality of the mind relative to how you interact with that chronology.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons why, Satan, Saturn, why the Saturn worship is so prevalent within the Jewish rabbinical communities too, alongside radical Islam, because it's just another flavor of the Jewish mind virus, as is Catholicism. These are all inventions of the Eastern European Khazarians as they marched westward and
they were talking
conquered the minds of men,
effects of the Schofield Bible on Christian Zionists, and that's kind of why we're in this situation where there's having, where Huckabee is giving this totally insane interview to Tucker, defending Israel and all that. So,
well,
that's where
Bibi's dead. Bibi is very clearly dead. So since we've talked last, that's a good thing.
Well, he could be a giant with 6 fingers.
He could be a giant with 6 fingers and 2 ear cavities per ear. I don't know how that happens.
I don't know. Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we're entering into that phase of things in, geopolitics world, but back to our little lesson here about that's part of the trick around what the attempt to control the mind with these Oz themes is all about in time, is to make you think, A, you're trapped in this one. B, it's they're trying to create apathy in you because there isn't any other point to live anything other than what you are in the prison that you're in. You can't change your reality. You already have a version of you elsewhere that's doing it anyway. So why would you change the course that you're on? You see how it also locks people in to that kind of a groove. This is all part of the more nefarious part of the subliminal programming that's embedded into this. I don't yet know. What you can't actually get to the bottom of is whether Frank Baum was actually complicit in this, or whether his stories were just such a good template that they were used for the magic throughout the course of the 20th century.
Chicken or
that's
egg.
The interesting thought that I have is, was he participant in the design of this, or was he just a fantastic storyteller that all of the core components to cast very meaningful spells on people's minds were already there? And so they just took those themes and implanted them in all the media and pop culture and stuff. So back to the thing, though, what it is it's a comic book with the editor's attempt to convey an encyclopedic reference guide to names, places, events that have happened in the Oz lore that teaches it to a new audience through graphic novels.
Yes. So as you go through, you'll see like these little QR codes.
Yeah.
And those go to that interactive map, different places on the interactive map. So as you're reading through the comic, then you're actually seeing where on the map. And if you notice on the map, instead of an ice wall, the ice wall concept, it's a sand. Oh, it won't let me zoom out. Oh, here we go. I'm sorry. There's this
the shifting sands.
The shifting sands, yes, this abyss of shifting sands. And there was another map.
Oz is isolated from the reality of anyone else that can find it, because you have these treacherous sands that surround it, these big desert wastelands that no one can traverse because they will gobble you up. They're very treacherous. And so it's both a protective barrier and a barrier from ever leaving. It's like the Hotel California.
Yeah, because there was another one prior to this map that I have pulled up currently that had something out past the sands. I can't.
Yeah,
remember.
the whole it's in the front of the book. It's like the country of Oz as extrapolated with Oz right in the middle. Here it is in the comic book.
Oh yeah, that's what I was seeing. Yes. Hold on.
So that little square that everybody's seeing on Lisa's big screen is
that center,
is in the middle of the big shifting sand. And there's all these other regions of Oz, and there's an ocean beyond it. So this is kind of like, if you look at this too, what I was thinking about this is it almost looks like a cross section of a brain, like a homunculus or something.
Oh.
So like, the regions of the cerebral centers of the brain,
Interesting.
The different, the cerebellum, the prefrontal cortex, if you look at a map of a brain, or even take it's called a homunculus, when you look at all the functionaries of the human head, it kind of has a lot of these aspects. Oz itself, the country, takes on kind of a symbolic representation of that, such that Oz is in your mind, literally.
Good.
It's kind of how I interpreted that map. I think there's got to be something to that with the land of Oz being right in the center, where like the pineal glandular region would be, where you got the pineal and the pituitary. So anyway, to be determined. But the story of Oz, as this book would dictate, starts off interestingly. We're going to cover some beats of the steganography we find in this. Remember, history is a lie. Finance is a lie. Religion and science are both lies. Oz is prevalent in all of these themes across our daily lives, in blanketing the lie on top of us such that we don't see the truth. The Emerald City in Oz represents the ultimate truth, like the whole video that Lisa played at the beginning of this is. It's right at the center of that. There's a whole reason why it's the Emerald City, has to do with Hermeticism and the emerald tablets of Thoth. Thoth being the knowledge bringer in the Hermetic traditions in Egypt, right? So this is all actually carried forth somehow. Frank Baum may very well, when you look into his past, it very well looks like he, kind of like a lot of people in the 18th century, was a Hermetic. He was a Hermeticism geek. He was into the ancient world, and especially Egyptology and such. So the lion is key in Egyptology too, with the Age of Leo, the brave lion now in Oz universe, because he gains his courage, so he becomes the brave lion. And this is kind of what it's all about. And the shift from the age of into the age of Leo, as I argue, right? Not into the age of Aquarius, because we're measuring, in my opinion, the Vedic calendar backwards. We're observing that the new year is in the vernal equinox, which we are going to pass in a couple of days, but we would be incorrect because the ancients measured the new year of the sidereal calendar by the autumnal equinox forward. So we are 180 degrees out of phase for where we think we're headed into the age of Leo, the reason why the Sphinx is carved away. There's a secret behind why the age of Leo is very important. And there would be a lot of impetus and motive for those controllers that control history, finance, and religion and science to blanket you from what you're capable of, from what the past conveyed here on planet Earth. So what is Oz really? Back to that. But again, kind of this symbolic representation of where we have to get back to. So similar characters that you're familiar with from the movies, Dorothy, the Tin Man, Scarecrow, and the Lion that I already mentioned, kind of start off in the beginning of this book. And Dorothy kind of quickly exits. There's a character that's introduced whose name is Tip, who's running away from kind of a Hansel and Gretel type situation in the middle of the woods from a witch named Mombi.
Just to touch on that, his name is Tip. Remember, we're seeing now Elon starting the X money, and there's no tax on tips. And what Tip is complaining about is that he is kept by Mombi to do chores. So he's distracted by who he really is. We'll find out later in the book, by being kept busy with chores.
He's under some kind of a spell. He's very hazy. He's meant for more, as he says. It's like your classic Cinderella story. I'm meant for more, So she's right. That's how Tip enters the scene, and Dorothy pretty quickly enters the scene afterward in the expository sequencing to introduce the characters. You'll notice Glinda the Good Witch is present too, the Golden Sun, and the silver shoes.
Also, her library, Glinda's library, is significant in this, and that would talk about like the knowledge of good and how there's a very hidden kind of place, and that the knowledge has been kept from us, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like her enclave in her region. She's like the knowledge bearer.
Yeah.
So Dorothy leaves. She goes back to Kansas. She's reminded that the shoes have great power, and all she needs to do is wish that she goes home to Kansas. The shoes get left behind in the shifting sands desert, out where as you can see, there are a bunch of dolphins just swimming along in the sands.
Isn't there a weird dolphin thing recently? There was
Well,
the Dolphins. That guy.
The Dolphins play in. The Dolphins play into the whole Ace Ventura, Jim Carrey ritual that went alongside Super Bowl 58. The Bills. Remember, I was telling you last time when we looked at that. Well, few shows that we did ago when we looked at the Peyton Manning and Josh Allen video, but that had all the Road to Ruta sequencing in it from the Buffalo, New York part of the Steganography riddle that hides the Tartarian past. There is a component to there's a component to that Josh Allen video where if you recall, what was the question? I'm losing my train of thought.
So
all of a sudden,
I was talking about the Dolphins.
Retrogrades hitting me. The Dolphins.
That weird thing
I was trying
about
to bring it back to the Dolphins.
The guy that just got arrested or found or whatever, and he said Dolphins kidnapped him and made him build underwater facility cities.
Oh, right. Fuck, I forgot about that. Shit,
so,
you're right. So let's come back to that too.
Okay.
But the Dolphins piece had to do with what the way that they rehashed that whole Bills ritual, the wide right. The Bills lost the Super Bowl to the Giants because he kicked it wide right. Well, that footage was reused in Ace Ventura, the movie. A, V, lambda, V for the V-Stag. And that character was turned into the enemy because if you remember, the laces in versus the laces out controversy was here. Let me see. Laces out, Dan. Yeah. So Dan Marino, playing for the Dolphins, was turned into the guy. They replayed that same footage from the Bills, but they computer enhanced it. It was 2 years later after that thing happened in the Super Bowl that Ace Ventura came out as a movie, and they just reused that whole same story, but it was a Dolphins story now in the show, and the character Ray Finkel, the kicker, had to retire after this because his whole career was ruined. They lost the Super Bowl for the Dolphins, but it was the same story as the Bills. And this is where it starts to get really weird with the way that all transpires. Ray Finkel is number 5. The V-Stag is very, very apparent. And you go back to my Super Bowl 58 video from that year right here. I'll just link it for people because
there's also a Finkel or Winkle like land in Oz. And there's something about water.
Right. There is that. The Finkel land. So here we go. Like, I didn't make that connection yet, but there you go. There's your Oz connection with Ray Finkel from Ace Ventura too.
Yeah. Are you sharing?
Here's the video. If anybody if you want to show that up on screen and share the link if you want to, it's in the V-Cypher community page on Rumble. But that has a lot to do with the whole Dolphins tie-in. And Lisa, you said you remind me of this other thing that happened. There was an abductee event that made kind of the popular rounds on Twitter like last week, right?
Yeah.
Where I think the story was that some guy got, you tell the story.
He says he got abducted by dolphins and forced to go underwater and build these cities or whatever. And he was very dazed, confused. People were like, and they were asking him, and there was kind of like this bossy dolphin because they were like, how'd you breathe down there? And he's like, oh, he made this apparatus with bubbles for me. And then come to find out what he actually does in life is that he builds underwater like facilities or mechanisms or something. And so people are like, maybe he really did get abducted by dolphins.
Okay. Yeah.
It's not been proven.
That's the story. Yeah. So very interesting. How meaningful is it? Or is it just qualia? That's kind of funny.
Yeah.
So the dolphins in the shifting sands.
Because this sand area, humans can't exist in the sand. Like their flesh comes off, but the dolphins can exist in it. The sand is like, and that could be like above and below the terra firma, talking about oceans and sky,
Well,
kind of
you know
thing.
what I think it could also be symbolic of. I always look at the steganography of stuff. If the dolphins are swimming in the sand,
Mhm.
so if you remember, if you pull up the map of the sand again, I'll show everybody just to give them the reference point of that map from the beginning.
Mhm.
But if you pull up the sands around Oz, dolphins are frequency-based creatures, right? And they have the ability to communicate incredibly intricate types of information that we don't even understand yet via the probably rudimentarily even call echolocation, right? I think there's a lot more to it, even with bats, than just sending out a sonic wave and getting a distance report back, because that's what science tells you, is that echolocation, they send a voice signature out and it bounces off of something like a radar, it sends a signal back, and it's just a distance locator so that they can figure out where they are and orientation. It's just so much more than that.
The
right?
guy that got abducted said that it was a language of clicks and whistles.
Yeah, there you go.
He picked up on it pretty quick.
So the sand in my little brain map here, if I'm correct, right, about my interpretation of the map of Oz being a homunculus or a cross section of a brain showing different regions that are labeled. If the sand is surrounding the very center of it, is that a barrier to frequencies, or are the frequencies such that they're affecting the inner part of the brain, right? So I think there's something to the dolphins being in that sandy area around the consequential pineal gland fortress of the Emerald City, let's say, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
So anyway, Dorothy is no longer, she exits stage left for the time being.
Mhm.
And Tip becomes Tip, the little boy that was trapped in the Hansel and Gretel situation with the witch Mombi, becomes the main emphasis of the story. And Tip begins to see visions of when he was a little baby.
Mhm.
And all he has to go off of are these images of green cufflinks and remembering sleeping in a crib. Here's the cufflinks right there.
Mhm.
So these weird visions and memories are coming back to Tip, and he's wondering why he's been trapped by the witch Mombi and why every time he tries to escape, for whatever reason, she needs him there. And then we have the wizard actually leaving. Whoops.
Yeah. And he like I don't know, did he trick Dorothy into helping him leave, or did he really leave on accident?
No, he was just supposed to take Dorothy with him
But
when
then
he left.
all the ropes
But he left on his own instead.
behind. Yeah.
So that's what I was going to show. And then I knocked my mic here. And
Uh-oh. Let's see.
yeah, there we go. Okay. Sorry, guys. Okay. So
And as he's leaving, he commands that the Scarecrow will be the new king till he gets back.
Yeah. The Scarecrow is now the new king. The straw man is the king.
That's what I wrote.
Anyway, some things happen. I'm going to go over the things that happen in the meantime. After Dorothy leaves, Glinda the Good Witch names the Scarecrow the ruler of the Emerald City, as appointed by the wizard. The Lion is the ruler of a different province in the region, and the Tin Man yet another province in the region. They're all made rulers of the various provinces of Oz. And then we have an attention that goes right back to the character Tip, like I said. And there's a rescue squad that comes in that was assigned by Glinda, like this military group of chicks, kind of like Charlie's Angels.
Yeah.
And they come in and kidnap Tip, the little boy, to take away from the witch Mombi here. The problem is the witch Mombi immediately gets enraged down here and turns into this firebird, the Phoenix.
The Phoenix, yeah.
Just like our 1988 Economist cover that we've been discussing with the Oz themes in the last few weeks here. And so they have it out. They have a battle shooting her down out of the sky. Not until they they take on damage and fall into the poppy fields. So they crash land into the poppy fields outside of Oz, and immediately everyone goes to sleep.
And
Tin Man has
a question before you get too far ahead. So there's the phoenix bird, and then there's this metal bird.
Oh yeah, it's like a cockatrice.
And is that on the guardian side, the metal bird? That it looks very much
bird
like
was basically the bird that they were flying on. There's like a little mechanical platform. It's a mechanical bird that is alive in the land of Oz. And it's like a cockatrice. Have you ever seen like
very much like the Litecoin chicken?
The Litecoin chicken. Oh.
If you ever see the Litecoin chicken,
chicken,
it's those colors. It's the blue. And remember that blue in this is silver.
Yes.
Like her shoes, they show her shoes and they look blue, but they say her silver shoes. So this would be a silver chicken that didn't get burned up in the fire.
Well, essentially, that's what a cockatrice. Like, look up cockatrice for me, if you would. I think there's a legend of lore that ties right into probably what the Litecoin bird is. Even I'll bet you anything, the Litecoin bird is a cockatrice.
You think I know how to spell cockatrice?
Cock, like a chicken, like a chicken head.
Otrice. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Cockatrice.
This is a terrible.
It's basically what this little bird is. I'll show it again to the audience.
Okay. Let me see if I can find a better picture.
Here's the head of that bird.
It doesn't really.
It's a mechanical one. You have the chicken head with. Here's a better picture of them in battle.
It's like a two-legged dragon, it says on Wikipedia.
Yeah, with wings.
With a rooster's head.
Yeah. It's a cockatrice. So what I'm saying about this is symbolism of a cockatrice. It's a chicken head, body of a serpent, wings of a bat or a dragon. Yep. My computer goes so slow sometimes after I click on something.
When you're streaming, it can really slow things down too.
Yeah. I am frozen.
Oh, so then I got into, then it moves into I don't want to jump too far ahead. My next little tab is the We the People, when the mice come to help them move.
So everybody's asleep in the poppy field when they fall asleep. And this represents the treachery of trying to attempt to learn the truth.
And the mice are able to help get them pushed over. But there was a comment in here that says they don't know how powerful they are together. But when you get enough of them together, there's almost nothing they can't do. They may be tiny. So
the mice represent the people in the rat race.
Perfect. Yeah, I got We the People.
The little people, the normies in the rat race.
Yep.
So eventually the Tin Man breaks him out. Tip almost gets eaten by a giant. There are giants in Oz. These are more inconsequential parts of the story, but they're interesting beats because they share a little bit of, again, if Oz is hiding what we should know about what's being conveyed. What I thought was most interesting about, I found it, the story you were telling about the dolphins is somewhere along the way, after they were awakened out of the poppies and before they got to the dark forest, Mombi captured Tip in a bubble, just like your little dolphin guy story, right?
I forgot about that.
And they had to pop him out of the bubble to free him from floating back to Mombi in this water bubble that she captured him in.
And right after that, so after he gets popped out of the bubble, is when the yellow brick road is rolling and unstable.
That's right.
So
That's where the giant comes in. The giant was whipping the yellow brick road around to try and get people toward the castle so the giant could eat them, like Jack and the Beanstalk kind of stuff. So eventually, and this is, I think, where I want to stop maybe today. So maybe a couple more pages here, Lisa, to get like halfway through, so we can kind of analyze this a little bit further. There's the giant's castle.
Tried to eat Jack, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Tried to eat the jack-o'-lantern, Jack the jack-o'-lantern, who was there to watch over, to be a spy on Tip.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
He's actually a sweet jack-o'-lantern.
Eventually, the gang that's our new gang that's following the Yellow Brick Road, that consists of the Tin Man, Tip, our Charlie's Angels chicks, and I think that was it. After
Jack and the sawhorse.
Oh, and Jack rejoined them. Yeah. They come across a mantis, not really a mantis, kind of like a cross between like an ant and a mantis in the forest here, and he's conducting a symphony with the trees. The trees are all playing cellos and stuff. So frequency in frequency manipulation in the forest. Turns out that this mantis joins them along the way too. And eventually the gang gets pretty close to the Emerald City. After they rendezvous with this bug who the Tin Man knows, they come across this field of sunflowers now. And what happens here is, again, the witch Mombi puts an illusion spell on everybody, pops her head through one of the flowers. Everybody thinks they're getting attacked by the flowers. There's this incredibly terrible hissing, this laughing, this frequency of laughing, as you can see, ha 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 ha, that's making everybody crazy, and they can't think straight. And then when you have over here, the bug admits, what are you guys doing? What are you seeing? I don't see anything. Because when it gets down to it, it was just a mind trick. There was nothing really happening at all, and the bug was the only one that wasn't affected. If this is significant to our thoughts about Saturn, guys, because if we're correct about what I suspect and have taught you guys about my theory anyway, is that the rings of Saturn are big attenuated strings, if you will, like a big stringed instrument. Saturn has the hex at the top of the polar region, casting a hex, casting a spell, right? Frequency manipulation. The bug creatures, the mantis beings, who appear to have vehicles that have created those very rings. They're artificially created things, not a naturally occurring thing. So if it's an instrument that bug creatures have created, that they themselves are impervious to the harmonic frequencies that they're sending our way, just like our little bug guy here, what is that telling us? I think it's a nod to the frequency manipulation of the aliens, the bugs that are probably originating a lot of our ailments down here. And I think it's all part of the attempt to create a hive mind in humanity, instead of having our individual nature.
Yeah, different tools that are used, like media, the psyop that we're in, and people in that cognitive dissonance, repetitious narrative, and it's hard for them to break out of it. Made me think of when you were talking about Saturn and the rings, because a lot of people think that they were formed by, things breaking off or floating in, even meteors coming into Saturn and them being like junk floating around and then getting caught in an orbit. And we just recently had that huge meteorite land in Ohio.
Did it really land, or I've seen that there have been meteors that they're not really meteors. They're just like, they're changing directions, and they've been sighted all across the US.
Like 17,000 pounds or 17 million pounds.
Did they recover the actual rock compound, the aggregate that came from the sky? Did they recover it? Because if they did not, it's just a headline, because these war headlines are all silly too, because absolutely none of it explains the impetus or the what behind what's happening, or the why.
Yeah. I don't know. I would have to do more research on that. But I think it's very interesting. Like I really enjoyed it. Now there's a really weird part we're coming to, but that'll be for next week.
Well, we'll tease it. I want to say there again. We're talking about false history. Mombi, right at the point of the halfway point, she betrays herself to her motives. She controls history. She was adamant about that, right, Lisa? She was, I am the one that controls history. Mombi, the witch that turned into the phoenix, the one that took the cockatrice out of the sky, that laid the illusion spells on everybody's minds in the book. She finally caught up with them by the time they got there to the Emerald City, disguised herself as a rose, made herself apparent, and she described what her motive was to get Tip back. Because Tip is important for some reason in controlling history and stopping the new golden age. That was also something that Glinda was trying to bring into the equation. Glinda, the golden sun, the good witch. She was attempting to bring in the golden age. The wizard has exited stage left. Dorothy, again, is in Kansas. Her shoes are shanghaied back. A golden age is being attempted for some reason in Oz, and history is not necessarily in the grasp of control of Mombi anymore. Otherwise, she wouldn't be screaming about it, right? All very interesting. It all kind of hits with as
even interesting that you said her silver shoes are shanghaied back.
Yeah.
Because if we look at the Shanghai exchange,
that was a little pun for everybody.
There's definitely a significant difference in prices of reality there and pricing here. And so it's interesting.
London is dying.
And they were in the sand, weren't they? Weren't they shanghaied back to the sand?
Yeah, that's where the shoes are. They're in the sea. They're in the sea where you can't really retrieve them. How will the silver shoes get retrieved? They're in the sand with the dolphins, which is to say that they're under frequency manipulation, maybe.
Or currency.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll find out. All right.
So that's halfway through our comic. We'll do some other decoding of that with you guys next week. There's another half to that comic. You can see though it's pretty in depth as it relates to the mind control apparatus of the Jewish sorcerers on your mind to control religion, science, history, and money. Oz is a vehicle to template onto you, and it's whether this guy is complicit with decoding things. This is what's always weird about the steganography, right, Lisa? What is the motive of the guy that's sharing this with us now?
I don't know. Does he know?
Is he part of the Templar community trying to wake us all up? I've always argued that there's that alternate, self-organizing collective, as Cliff calls them.
Sure.
He calls them Cathari. I'll call them Templars, which is just a derivation of all of that. And there have to be those who've carried on that knowledge, waiting for this time for the reincarnation of the ones who
went through the fire.
And the breadcrumbs that you got to leave potentially to reawaken the mind, right? To remind us of what we have to do to get back on track. I think there's probably a component embedded within the steganography that's trying to, I've seen it both ways. I can see the control aspect of it, and then I see the other side of it showing us the control aspect such that we can peel it back, giving us the manual, so to speak.
It could be a purification that's needed. I'm thinking, so we do the thrifting and estate sales and whatever, and like I'll pick up jewelry and whatever, and like I found one necklace, it's a 10 karat. So it's not really worth a lot by itself. But then my husband started looking into forging or refining. And like if you got a bunch of, so what you do is you get a bunch of gold or whatever, metals, jewelry, you put it in the forger, it burns away impurities. And so you may have a 10 karat bracelet and a 14 karat necklace and a 24 karat ring. And I don't know, you put a bunch of stuff in there that forges it out, and burns off the impurities of the lower numbered carat and then melds them together. And it doesn't just make an average because it's burning off the impurities. So eventually, if you continued to forge that same bar,
We're talking about the practice of smelting specifically.
smelting. Okay, I'm using the wrong words.
Well, you use a forge.
Okay.
In the process along the way, there's
like I said, I'm new to this.
You also have a crucible. There is what it's called when you're doing this, where you're fanning.
Yes,
you're fanning the little embers.
So what was interesting to me is, you know, in the Bible, it talks about that we'll be purified by the fire, just like gold going through. And so it wasn't that when watching this process of them doing this, it wasn't that it was like an egg and some flour and some water make a cake. It was 10 karat, 14 karat, 12 karat make about 13 point, but you could run it through again and you might have 15 karat or 16 karat because you can constantly make gold better. The more fire it goes through, the more smelting up. You could keep doing it and burning off the impurities. Yeah. And so that's what, when you're talking about changing the frequency and the Oz put on us, are we living in what we think is a 10 karat world, but we actually have everything in us to be 24 karat.
I see what you're saying with that. Yeah. I think what you're really just saying is our potential, however, whatever metaphor that you use to describe how it's being sequestered and pushed down, is within us to ignite, to
and to remember
out impurities, however you might do so, right? Whether that's evil thoughts or doubts or worries or whatever, even, right?
And remember who we are.
Right.
Yeah.
We are the Aryan Cathari. Yeah. So we're the pissed off white boys and gals. But the gals, you know, they're too fair. They need to maintain their elegance. We need to fight for our women. You know, we don't need our women going into battle for us. That's not
women and men. Well, and that's okay. The other thing, which I'll save that video for next time, because when we get into the second part of it, there's a big battle right now.
Yeah.
We need both men and women. We both are valuable, but
absolutely. We just don't need, it's a waste for us to just put our women on the front lines and kill them in a war. You know, that's why it's just a shame, I think.
Yeah. We need more
to put women in the soldier role specifically. That's kind of what I'm saying. You know, I think that there are specific women, you know, you've got some UFC varieties out there too. I won't speak for all women. You know, some of those chicks are pretty scary, but you know, not all women are Amazonians, right? Like you see from those, you know, that archetype of woman in the mythos, where those big hulking 7-foot tall spear throwing women from the Amazon. Kind of like Wonder Woman, right? That's where Wonder Woman's story all comes from. But we all need to have a family unit. That's really what I'm saying. And we got to get our minds right for what's to come with rearing of children and stuff. It's a whole nother podcast to do, but
yeah, we'll talk about it more next time, because it really gets into roles and family and all that kind of stuff. But
you want to show a couple more items just newsworthy that connect us back. Again, you mentioned the Wolverine and the Intrepid videos from earlier.
I can't go too much longer. Charlie invited.
I just wanted to share the pocket watch one. You know, the pocket watch thing.
Yeah. I
think it's a really good way to close us out, because it references us back again to our Intrepid time rituals. But there was a new development, guys. If you remember that whole decode that we did back last April, it was about a year ago now, that we were doing that Wolverine Intrepid time ritual with the Apollo missions and the moon and the 50th anniversary. Anyway, all of this stuff is 55th anniversary, I should say, is back in our analog or our channel catalog on Lisa's page here. But the Intrepid Museum had a key tie to JFK Jr.'s favorite watch that he used to wear, the Timex Intrepid. Weird, right? And then not so long after that, we had the Timex Q watch that came out back in October when we were doing the Batman Deadpool comic decode. That was right before I moved. And here, I'll show you this one again, just so everybody has that there. That was the one back in October. And then, of course, we had this one, the Intrepid watch. That was JFK Jr.'s. So these are our little steganography beats that tie us to the Q world and the Q poet, which is another aspect of this whole Oz mystery.
There was also this one.
And then this is the one that came up. This is the one that came up on Twitter earlier this week.
Yeah. So before it was Timex, it was Ingersoll Waterbury. And before that was just Ingersoll Watch Company. In the 30s and 40s, they made a particular pocket watch with a face that said Ingersoll Trump.
And if everybody is keen on the Ingersoll Lockwood mystery of the late 1909, basically, he was the one that created The Last President, the novel about the last president and the incredible journey of Baron Trump. That's right. And he's also the namesake of this very encrypted corner of the whitehouse.gov website where they were advertising for the World's Fairs to come back at the beginning of the presidency. Remember, guys, this is our mud flood, Tartaria, Buffalo, St. Louis, old history coming back. McKinley assassination, the Trump attempted assassination by the firefighter from Buffalo. The guy that was the bystander in the crowd, I would argue, is the real assassin that they killed to protect Trump, who was never really in danger that day because of the V-stag on the side of his face. The blood splattered in the shape of a red V. I mean, how much more obvious can you get if you have the mind to see this stuff? The Ingersoll Lockwood, Timex, Time, Intrepid, 88, Back to the Future, all these rituals, guys, you see, they're all part of the same exact aim. To tie you to bind you to time and trick you that it's not just duration, that you're stuck in a groove. So I hope that you guys have learned something along the way in all this, because it never fails. It keeps happening. We even had that Shirley Temple. Remember the Shirley Temple? And that's another one. There was a clip, guys, of a movie called what was it? It was the Shirley Temple.
Oh, the
movie about St. Louis. On the Way to St. Louis.
Oh, okay.
On the Way to St. Louis was the name of the movie. And Judy Garland, who plays Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, is central to a scene in a movie about the World's Fair in St. Louis, where they're talking about the mud floods of the past that covered up all of these ancient cities that the World's Fairs were showcased at. So we'll leave you with that for now. There's a lot going on with the rewriting of history, and I hope that you guys all get something out of the spellcast, seeing through the spellcasting aspect of it to see how this has all been implanted in us over the last, especially 120 years.
Yeah. I will ask you to listen to my friend Coffee and Stocks. And did you know that you can get your little XP points when you're watching on YouTube, and you can use it to hype this video after it's completed? You swipe from comments to live chat, and then after the video, it allows you to swipe to hype. So do us a favor and swipe.
I see.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
Swipe type, huh? That's a new one. I didn't know they had that functionality.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Ben. I appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next time.
Bye, guys.
In central Munchkin country, great clusters of scarlet poppies carpet the landscape, drawn by their sweet aroma and dazzling beauty. The unsuspecting may step off the road of yellow bricks. Beware, as these cursed flowers will lull one into a deep slumber from which they may not awaken.